All right. I know we have a jam-packed agenda tonight, so we'll go ahead and get started and let everyone join if they need to in the next few minutes. But good evening, everyone. My name is Caitlin Tully, here from the Center for Family Safety and Healing. Really excited to be with you to talk through teens and tech, take a look at what technology teens are using, how they're using them, and how we as parents can become equipped in having conversations and supporting our teens in navigating technology. And then I also have a co-presenter tonight. Margie, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. Good evening, everyone. My name is Margie Carrington. I'm also a trainer with the Center for Family Safety and Healing. We are also a part of Nationwide Children's Hospital.
Mhm. Great. Oops, sorry, Margie.
That's all right.
Jumping ahead. Yeah. So, as you know, as Margie shared, we're part of Nationwide Children's Hospital, and we first started doing this work about 10 years ago. And I partnered with teachers and with principals and with parents, and we said we want to create a curriculum to talk about healthy relationships for teenagers and sort of what are some of the things that we need to know. And over and over and over again, what we heard from everyone is if we're going to talk about relationships, we need to talk about technology. And at the time, there really wasn't a lot of great content out there. A lot of it was using scare tactics and was freaking parents out and freaking students out and wasn't really getting into the heart of what real families are navigating. And so we said we really wanted to change that. So what you're going to see tonight is kind of the parent version of what we use in schools to talk with students about boundaries around technology and anything related to safety in a way that I think is responsive to again what real families are dealing with here in Central Ohio. Margie's really going to take the lead in talking through the apps with you, and then we're going to kind of bounce off each other for some of the other resources. But if at any point you'd like to ask questions, we'd love to hear from you in the Q&A. And then Margie's also going to introduce some of the ways we're going to have some interactive tools tonight.
Yeah, so as Caitlin said, that we go out to different middle schools and high schools, and we talk to the students about relationships, technology, and really when we talk about technology and we talk about the social media apps, mostly talk about with them are the boundaries, what is safe, how to use it appropriate, what is inappropriate, because we know that they're on because it's fun, right? It's the way that they connect with their friends. But also, we want them to have fun while they're online, but we also want them to be safe while they're having fun and use it correctly. So that's as we get started, we have a little bit of this interaction. Go ahead, you can. Thank you. We have a little bit of this interaction that we would like to do with you tonight. It's called Poll Everywhere. And so in order to engage with us, if you can go onto the website, which is pollev.com. And if you enter in TCFSHT 760, that will get you into, that will have you join the Poll Everywhere. And then you can also text, if you text the code TCFSHT 760 to 22333. That is another way that you can join. If you don't really feel comfortable connecting on the web or through text, please go ahead and put it in the Q&A. You can go ahead and turn.
Just another thing to consider with Poll Everywhere, one of the reasons we like to use it is because it's anonymous. So it scrambles your data so that we don't know who you are, which is one of the reasons sometimes it's more comfortable than the Q&A because it's not tied back to your name.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, sorry. Go ahead, Margie.
So the first question that we have is, how do you feel about technology as a parent? We'll give everybody a few seconds to respond to that.
So when you think about this, maybe do you feel like the parent that knows everything about what your child is doing? Do you feel like a parent who knows very little about what your child is doing? Or maybe you know what your child is doing, but you feel kind of overwhelmed by technology in general. Some parents that we partner with are like, I could build an app tomorrow. I know everything there is to know about technology. Other parents are like, well, I sit with my kid, I watch what they're doing on their tablet, but a lot of it's over my head. And then some of our parents are like, I'm lucky I know how to work my smartphone. I'm lucky I know how to turn it on. Right. And so those are some of the ways that we, again, can try to navigate this as parents. We all are going to walk into this with different comfort levels. Great. So I see some responses. I'm just going to kind of scroll back so we can read those together. So let's see. So we have overwhelmed. Again, a super common thing that we hear from parents. It's a lot of information. Even our very tech savvy teenagers know that this is a lot. So another parent said overwhelmed. I'm actually technically savvy. However, I believe that my child has the ability to sneak around my parental controls. Yes, absolutely. And the data backs this up. We're actually going to walk through a little bit of this, but 100%. There's something what we call digital natives. And so our teenagers, they were born in a time, all of our teenagers are younger than Google. And so they have a different way in which their brain navigates technology than we as adults do. We all said hard to keep up. Yes. I'm very comfortable using technology, but it is a big distraction in our household. Absolutely. Devices can, take all of our attention. It is always changing, hard to keep up with what they are seeing. Absolutely. And if it makes you feel better, we change this presentation. Margie, what would you say, like every few weeks?
Yes.
I mean, that's honestly what it feels like. And then somebody said worried. Absolutely. Fear is so real with this because there's so much that we as parents think, I've got this. I know how to navigate this. I experienced that as a teenager, or I remember what it was like to do this. But very few of us remember what it was like to be a teenager navigating smartphones, even internet, all sorts of things. So this is all new territory, and that can make it feel really overwhelming as a parent. And one of the things that I think is really important in our training tonight is our goal is to help you feel prepared, to help you feel like you've got this, right? Because we all have those moments. And so I hope that rather than being a scary thing to talk through what different apps are out there, if it feels a little bit overwhelming, that this will be an opportunity to just kind of share that with other parents, and to ask us any questions that you have that might pop up. And so again, yes, so saw the question about the code. So just want to make sure people had that. But yeah, so again, this is hopefully a way for us to all stay connected as we try to navigate this as parents.
Yeah. And I will just say, I completely understand where a lot of these statements are coming from, because I am also a parent and I have a middle schooler and I have elementary school children as well. But social media is a huge conversation. I feel as though I have this conversation a million times a day with my daughters, because this is what they are on all day. Now, I wouldn't say all day, but that's where their attention is, right? So it can be frustrating, it can be overwhelming, it can be very worrisome for a parent, right? Because we don't really know, because if you are a parent that, like for me, growing up, we didn't have all this social media, right? I remember when cell phones came out and when it all started, and like internet and AOL. So when we start to think about that, it really does. I really do understand, and I think we understand, because we know that this wasn't out, and it's kind of hard because it's always changing. It's one day TikTok is the new trend, the next day is out, and it's constant for a parent to keep up with that. That could be a struggle. So we have another one. These were all great comments. Thank you all for participating with this. So we'll go to the next one.
Sure. For some reason, it's not wanting to. There we go.
So for this one, do you use your phone, your tablet, computer more or less often than the average tween or teen?
Mm-hmm. So want to get your kind of thoughts here, and then we'll tell you what the actual averages are. Some people might be thinking, well, I don't know what those are. So hard to know. Yeah, so as people are answering this, just for your frame of reference, the average tween is on a phone, tablet, or computer a little under 5 hours a day, and the average teen is on their phone, tablet, or computer a little under 8 hours a day. And when we actually had a presentation that involved teen girls and their parents or their adults in their life, we asked them to look at their screen time. And what we found in that presentation was actually that the adults had significantly more time on their devices than the teenagers. But oftentimes, the perception from the adults was that they were on their phones less often. Or I had many parents that said, well, yeah, I mean, I'm on my phone all the time, but that's for work, it's for important stuff. And my pushback on that was when you're a teenager, what's the important stuff, right? Developmentally, it's peer relationships, figuring out your identity, all of these key pieces that involve social media. So for teenagers, social media in many ways is their work. And so if you think about how many hours you put in on tablets or technology devices because of your work, it is very similar for teens. So here we see 30% of adults saying more, 40% saying less, and 30% about the same. So, over half of us are saying more about the same.
And it's always funny when we're working with students because the comment that we get, because we'll ask the students this, and it's so funny because they always say, yeah, my mom always, or my dad always fusses at me about being on my phone all the time. And then we turn around and they're scrolling through their Facebook page. So it's so funny just to hear this is what, the teenagers are seeing their parents do. So to them, it's, well, you're on your phone all day. How come I can't be on my phone all day? And they say that, oh, my mom or my dad, they'll say, oh, it's for work. Or this I'm doing business with, so they make it seem like what they're doing on their phone is far more important than what their team is doing on their phone. I just wanted to, mention that because we always chuckle when we hear that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, maybe if it's sort of like a moment of reflection, I would say that's true for so many adults. I would say that for myself as well. So, not to say anything negative about parents, because I think it's a common thing, but it is a great moment of sort of self-reflection when you go through your screen time and then you compare yourself to your teenager, the teens in your life, and it's like a big aha moment. So again, I think it can be a good practice for yourself to kind of take a look at your screen time. And then just, Margie, anything else you'd add before we look at the data behind this?
No, you can go ahead and go through the data.
Okay, great. Yeah, so again, just kind of backing up what we've been talking about, what we see kind of anecdotally in classrooms every day, is that in 2016, Common Sense Media asked parents and teens, do you think that you spend too much time on your device? And what we saw was a drop in self-perception of too much time on their device for teens because this is so normalized, and an increase with parents. And this makes a lot of sense because if your parent is constantly on their phone, constantly involved in technology, all the adults around you are always using their devices, then it's going to be more normal or more common to you as a teenager. And so again, this data kind of backs up what we hear every day from teens. Additionally, the distraction piece. So this is a question, if you look at the green bar from 2016, 2019, parents were asked questions about their teenagers. Is your teen distracted by their device every day? 51%, a jump to 69%. But we see more than double increase in teenagers talking about their parents. So again, that sort of self-reflection of maybe in 2016, there wasn't as much access for parents, or maybe social media wasn't maybe as big as a part of their world. And now we're seeing that teenagers are seeing their parents on social media every single day or involved on their device, oftentimes distracted from dinner, from homework, other things like that. Anything you'd add, Margie, to the data?
No, I think you did a wonderful job. So, so as we continue, we're going to start to look at what are some of these apps that the teens are using. What are some of the most popular apps? We're also going to look at some of the apps that aren't as popular. So the first app, you can go ahead and turn it.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. So the first one is Facebook. I'm pretty sure a lot of people know what Facebook is. If you're not already using Facebook, Facebook is one of the most popular apps amongst older people. And when we talk to students, this is not where the students are going to be. Teenagers are not going to be on Facebook. And this year, it's funny, but when we have been asking teens about when we show Facebook, first thing that they're saying is, oh, it's for old people, it's for boomers, because that's what they're calling old people now, is boomers. So, not saying that we're boomers, but this is what, they say, and they chuckle, and they kind of have a little bit of fun when we talk about this one, because they know this is where their parents are. The only time that we hear when students are actually using Facebook is really to connect with family members like grandma or aunties or uncles that may not stay in the same city. It's just a way that they're connecting with family. So Facebook is not going to be a place where our teenagers are.
Yeah. And just to add to that, one of the things I've been hearing recently from seniors that we've partnered with is they almost look at Facebook as like LinkedIn, as adults would look at LinkedIn. They're like, oh, well, you get a Facebook account when you get old and you go to college so that you can get babysitting jobs or dog sitting jobs or other things like that. So they totally look at it as access to the adult world, not as social media that they would use.
Yeah, totally. So the next one that you probably use, again, as we go through these apps, some of these apps you're probably using yourself. So you probably already know what they are, but the reasons why you use them might be a little different for why our teenagers are using them. So Twitter is another one. Twitter is where teenagers, if they go on, they're really only going on Twitter to look at what celebrities are saying, to basically for entertainment purposes, to read about the news, but they're not actually going to go on Twitter to actually tweet. You're not going to see too many teens on this social media app. You can go to the next one. So there was a survey that was done, and basically it just stated that 6% of teens are not using Twitter, right? So this is not their favorite app. We know that. So as we move on, you can turn it. Sorry. As we move on, Facebook and Twitter is not where we're going to find our teens. We're going to start to see, and this shows, we're going to start to see our teens are going to be on Snapchat, they're going to be on Instagram. So this is where we're going to start to spend our time on. We always reference Facebook and Twitter because this is what we do with our students. We bring it up because we know some of them are actually, they will go on, and we do talk about it, but we know our teens, they're not going to be on Facebook and Twitter. What we're going to see is they're going to mostly be on Snapchat. This is where they're connecting with their friends. Instagram, this is another place that they're going to connect with their friends. These are the most popular ones. I know I did this training a few weeks ago, and I had the popular question of, what about TikTok? Yes, we are going to definitely talk about TikTok, but as far as this one, TikTok was not on this chart. Did you have anything else you wanted to say about this before I move on?
No, just to sort of add, you look at this data from spring 2019, and really TikTok had just been rebranded. And so it wasn't even on the radar because previously it had been Musical.ly. So that's how quickly this changes. We're talking about a year and a half for this data, and it's completely different now.
Yeah. So as we talk about what are the mainstream apps, we know that Facebook, we know that Twitter, and we know that Instagram. These are the three apps that most people are going to be on. It can be our teenagers, it's going to be our parents, it's going to be our friends. A lot of people on one of these apps will have their own page, right? So we know these are the three that are being used. But like I said, again, we know that Facebook and Twitter It's not where the teens are. Now, Instagram, that's where they are. I know adults that do use Instagram. They like the pictures, the different features. So we know adults are also on Instagram a lot as well. But let's talk a little bit more about why is it that teens love Instagram so much? What is it about Instagram, right? So for teenagers, what we hear is it's a place for them to connect with their friends. It is a place where they can feel supported with their friends. They say, obviously, it's fun because they get to have all the different features, the discovery page, the likes, the selfies. So this is a fun place for them, right? Another thing that we hear too is it's a place where they can meet other people that they have the same interests. They can be in groups that, if you are into swimming and someone else likes swimming, then you can join that group and be a part of that group. So we know this is where our teens are spending a lot of their time. They have a lot of followers. And I know as parents, it can be a little frustrating sometimes when you're at the store and your teen is trying to take a selfie in the middle of Target, right? And it's like, what? Why are you doing that? We're shopping. But for them, it's so important to get those likes. So what we find is they try to get the likes and they try to be the perfect image, right? They try to be like this perfect person when they're taking these pictures. So when you see your teen take about 5 or 10 pictures and they're like, that's not right, that's not right. It's that pressure that they start to feel because they don't want to get no likes. So they'll post that picture and they're not going to get any likes. And they thought this picture was going to be like great. So to them, it's everything to make sure that it's keeping up maybe with what their friends are doing. Maybe their friends might get like 100 likes, 200 likes. And if they end up with 50 likes, what does that say, right? So some of this starts to go into, what does it say about me? I really have to make sure I'm getting all these likes to kind of keep up with everyone else. So what we are finding is to kind of help help with this pressure of trying to keep up with everyone else, this whole self-image. They start a second page, which is called a Finsta. So some of you might have heard of the second page or a Finsta, the secondary page or the Finsta account. That is basically a second, like I said, it's a second page, a second Instagram account. And this is a place where they feel as though they can be themselves. This is where they're going to have their really good friends on. They're not going to allow everybody to follow them like they would on their primary account, on their main account. They're not going to let that happen. But on their Finsta account, this is where they can kind of like let their hair loose and be silly and post pictures that may not be perfect because their best friends are going to be on there. Maybe someone that they're dating is on there. So this is also a place where you might start to see them post pictures or pictures that may not always be appropriate to post, or do things or say things that may not be appropriate, because to them, they feel this is a safe space for me. I can really be myself here because it's my best friends, my really close people are on this page, and they are not going to like do anything to go out of my circle, pretty much. But what we try to make students understand is, could they take pictures of whatever you have on your Instagram account? Could they screenshot that and post it somewhere else? What happens if you and your best friend fall out and get into an argument? Could they take that silly picture or something that you posted and put it on somewhere else and out you? So it really is important, when we talk to the students, we talk to them really about making sure that they're posting things that are appropriate and just being very mindful of that, really. Just being very mindful about, even though it's your Finsta account and it might feel safe, but we just want you to be mindful about what you're going to post. Would you add anything to that, Caitlin?
No, absolutely. And I think one of the things we try to balance is we want obviously for people to have trust in their friendships and trust in other people. But once something is posted online, right, it's very different than when you're hanging out with your friends. And so I think that we kind of talk through how we can still have trust and be cautious about what goes on a Finsta page. And really talking openly about Finstas and the need for them and what emotional need they meet really helps to have teens really consider, what do I want to put out there on my Finsta or my spam account? So that I think is a helpful way to sit down with your teen and, not to judge them for having a Finsta, but just help them to think critically about what does a Finsta offer them and what are some of the things to use in terms of like being cautious about it.
Definitely. And we will, as we move further along in our presentation, we will talk about how do you have those conversations with your team. So this could be something that you definitely could have a conversation about.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So as we go forward to our next one that you probably hear a lot about is Snapchat. Snapchat is another social media app where you're able to take different pictures. You might have seen, and even some parents, you might even use Snapchat yourself. A lot of people like the different features and the filter for the pictures. You can do all the silly pictures like the dog ears and all types of fun stuff that they put out. So this is one of the reasons why we hear that a lot of kids, teens love Snapchat. They like it for that reason. Another reason why they like Snapchat too is we hear that you don't have as much pressure that you might have with Instagram, because with Snapchat, your followers or your when you do the different snaps are really with like your close friends anyway. So you could still kind of be a little bit more silly with your friends. Your pictures don't really have to be as perfect. Some of that pressure is lifted, whereas Instagram, you can get a little bit more pressure. So those are some of the reasons, but the big reason too is messages. They feel like because the messages disappear after 24 hours. So for teens, they think this is huge, that I can send a message or a picture to my friend, and after they receive it, it disappears in 24 hours. Now, we know it doesn't really disappear. But a lot of students, they really think it disappears. And I will talk about my children as we go through this presentation. But one of the things, I had this conversation with my own daughter about it. And she said, but Mom, no, they disappear. And I said, it doesn't go. It doesn't disappear. And so I had to, we sat down and we talked about it. But we know nothing goes away once it's put out there, right? We know that it really doesn't disappear. So teens think, I can send things. Maybe it could be inappropriate. Maybe it could be something really silly. It doesn't matter because it's going to go away. And so this is something that we really talk to students about. And we talk about that because we don't want them thinking that things are disappearing, and they're not disappearing. So we want them to be mindful about that. And another question that we ask them is, because before I get to that, when the other person receives it, they can see if someone takes a screenshot. And so that's another reason they think, well, if they take a screenshot, I'll know if they took a screenshot of it. So again, we say, is there another way that someone can look at the message and you won't know that they actually seen it? And we get students that say, oh yeah, you could do it this way, or you could put it on airplane mode. So they know how to get around. But the other way is they'll say, you just get another phone or another device and just take a picture of it.
Mhm.
So they know how to get around all this stuff. And so we just try to let teens know, just be very cautious about, what you might send out there, because it's not going to go away. So
Margie, do you mind if I interrupt you really quickly? Sorry, we just had some questions in the Q&A about what happens with Snapchat, like what happens to the snaps when they disappear. Do you mind if I answer that quickly?
Go ahead. And there is like a weird box on the screen.
Okay, it might be the question and answer. Is that it?
Go ahead.
Okay, great. So the question was, what happens to snaps? Like, where do they go? So a lot of students will tell me, they're like, oh, I know, there's a secret FBI database of snaps. I'm like, no, there's a lot of misinformation out there on the internet, as you can imagine. But if you read the fine print of the user agreement within Snapchat, they will say that they reserve the right to keep that on their server indefinitely. So basically, we have no idea how long Snapchat chooses to keep that content. Snapchat, some people within the Snapchat IT department have said they dump the data from the server within 24 hours. Others have heard it's indefinite. It's really, depends on the data, what's going to happen. I've worked with law enforcement who have been able to pull up snaps that are months old. So I do think there is data that's maintained on the server that is not within 24 hours. And so there really isn't a definitive time period. It can be kept as long as Snapchat wants to keep that content. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, if there's some sort of red flag that happens with the content itself, Snapchat will keep it even longer. And so if they perceive maybe an automatic filter says maybe there's drugs or alcohol, nudity, etc., that Snapchat sort of flags as inappropriate, they're even more likely to save it in case there's law enforcement involvement. And we are very transparent with teens about that nobody knows the answer about how long they're kept or where, like we know they're kept on the Snapchat server, but really how, what sort of security is with that information. And so just really being honest and transparent with teens. And one of the great ways that parents can do that is pull up the user agreement. Most teenagers have never even taken a look at it. And it can be a wonderful place to kind of start. Sorry for the long-winded answer, but I think it's an important one.
No, it's great. Thank you for those questions.
Let's see. Sorry. One more question. Are they more likely to get in trouble than with other people screenshotting their snaps? Yeah. So that is probably the greatest security risk, is when a friend or someone at school, a peer, takes a screenshot, because that image could be shared in a multitude of ways. So we've seen some teens where that's then shared on like an account, like a Finsta on Instagram, for example, or lots of other places. So I would say, rather than Snapchat keeping the image, it's definitely more likely to be dangerous or negative if their friends take a screenshot. And again, that's why we want to kind of get rid of that false sense of security that teenagers have around this. And one of the ways we can really catch teens in this, they're like, you're wrong. I'll pull up the user agreement. And I'm like, oh, I guess you're right. So use that to your advantage.
So thank you, Caitlin. Those were, again, another great question. And we're going to go through some of the features that Snapchat has. So one of them is for My Eyes Only. My Eyes Only is a feature that they use to hide pictures that they don't want anyone else to see. They hide it's called their memories. And they'll put it up as a password that you need in order to get into it. So this is another way, that they'll use to hide some of the pictures that they might, and it might not be anything bad. It could just be a memory that they find is very important, maybe at a birthday party or something, or a game. But it's just something that is important to them that they will use My Eyes Only to keep. So another feature is the Snap Streak. Snapchat has streaks. Trying to say all those X's at once. So a Snap Streak starts after 3 days of sending at least one Snapchat every 24 hours. So you might have heard your students or your child say, I have to keep my streak going. This is very important, because this fire emoji will appear when a streak has started. So it's so important for a lot of teens when it comes to the Snapchat. I mean the snap streak. To the snap streak, because they have to keep that streak going. Because for some for some of our teenagers, it measures their friendship, right? Like, if I don't keep this streak going, what will my friend think of me? I didn't keep it going. Will my friend be mad at me? Or, my friend, she didn't keep the streak going. So did I do something? They want to keep it going, right? It's very important to them. When we ask teens, why keep a streak going? A lot of times their answer is, I don't know. That's what they'll say. I don't know.
Most common one, yeah.
It's so common, but we know just from what we have heard and from what we have read, it really is. It gets into like this competition, like you got to keep it going. They didn't got to like 100 days. Why stop now? Right? So it gets into this competition. So if you have that, you take the phone away from your child and they're in the middle of a streak, and they start freaking out. That could be a reason, because it's like, oh my gosh, you're going to mess up my streak. And that is very important to them, because again, Snapchat and Instagram, this is a way that they are connecting with their friends. So sometimes as parents, we might think, oh, you know what, you're always on your phone anyways, you don't need it. And not really realize how it really is affecting them, because their peers is their everything right now when you're a teenager, right?
Yeah. And some parents will tell us, oh, this isn't real, right? Streaks aren't real, so who cares? And what is fascinating is actually when we look at some of the studies that have been done on social media and teens developing brains, they found that teens get the same amount of dopamine from maintaining a streak or getting a like on Instagram as they do from getting a hug. And that wasn't true in adult brains. It's very different for teenagers' brains. So when we say, oh, streaks aren't real, well, on a neurochemical level, they are real. And so they're meeting a developmental need for teenagers. And so we want to honor what is very real for teenagers. And also, as the adults and advocates in their lives, keep in mind that Snapchat knows that information and they're using it with intention to get those teenagers to use their product. So we as adults that are safe in a teenager's life, we have the ability to help them understand that. And what we've actually found, and Margie, I mean, we live this every day, right, is that when we explain that, rather than just saying, we want to take your phone away, or we don't want you to use Snapchat, they understand it differently. They understand how they're being manipulated by these large companies and by these organizations that have an interest in having teenagers use their product. So that can be another great way. Use the science to help your teenagers kind of understand why you're setting boundaries for them and with them.
Yes, very important.
Mm-hmm.
And as we go through this is going to be, it is important. You can start to use some of this science, just to know that every time they get a like on their picture on Instagram, every time they get their snap score, they're in a streak, it goes up. That just boosts them, right? Like she said, that dopamine is just like that. Yes, it makes you feel good, right? So it's so important as parents, if we can keep that in our mind, like this is like they're feeling as though they're getting these hugs and they're getting this. And so that is important. And this right here, and we can send this out too, this is the different emojis, and it just explains what they are. And we'll send this out and you guys can look at it so you can kind of know and be a little hip with your team as you talk with them. We'll get this out to you as well. And this, like I said, it's just a list of the different emojis. You can go ahead and turn. And then the hourglass, this will show on the snap streak when it's about to, that your time is running out if you don't hurry up and take a snap. So
yeah, and that's because streaks are within 24 hours. So it's at the bottom of that period. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Caitlin. And so the next one is Snap Maps. This is another feature that is also on Snapchat. This one, we mainly just talk to the students about going into ghost mode, because this is where, if your friends are following you, if they're able, and ghost mode is pretty much private. If it's public, your friends will be able to locate where you are. It shows where your location is. So we talk to the students about going into ghost mode so people cannot see where you are. Another thing is a quick ad. A quick ad is when a friend, a follower of another friend is able to will quickly add you on. Just like with Facebook, when you get your different friend suggestions and you can click on it, it's similar to that. So when you think about the safety behind that, if someone is able to just quickly add you to start following you, and you're not in ghost mode on maps, that person can find and see where you're located. And if you don't know them, that can be a safety risk. So when we talk to students about that, we tell them it is, go in ghost mode. Your friends, do they really need to know where you are at all times? I'm pretty sure, they know where you live. I'm pretty sure you guys are talking or going to be together, right? So we do talk to them about that. Mm-hmm. And sorry, anything else? You can go on to TikTok.
Yeah, we'll move ahead. Yeah,
we'll move ahead
into some of the new things.
Yeah, so TikTok, huge, right? Over the summer pandemic, everybody was home. TikTok everywhere, the dances everywhere. I myself did a TikTok dance with my daughter, very fun. But TikTok is another one that is very, very popular right now. And like Caitlin said, it wasn't as popular. It used to be Musical.ly. It is now TikTok. TikTok has been in the news. We're not going to get into the politics behind TikTok, what's going on with that. But TikTok, again, it's a place that our teens are going on there because it's fun. They like to act silly on there. They can be themselves. They can just goof off. It's great for being creative, self-expression. So and the videos aren't long. They're short clips. So that is another way that keeps teens coming back, because of the little short videos. And it's easy to keep scrolling through and making them. So another reason why TikTok is very popular. You can go ahead and click.
So I'm just going to pull up a comment from someone. So I know they're digital natives, but I can't help but think these connections are such poor imitations of real life connection. And I think it's contributing to their lack of social skills and delay of milestones per social dilemma. And I can't help being irritated and worried by these trends. So absolutely, I think that's a very common thing that we hear. And it's so hard because, especially for our adult brains, we don't get the same thing from social media that teenagers do. And it's really can be frustrating to see kind of how teens are navigating this, or maybe that it's very different from our own experiences, and what impact that has on their development can be definitely frustrating. And I think one of the things that can be challenging in interacting with teenagers on this is it feels real to them, or they don't see maybe how there can be barriers to meeting some of those milestones. So one of the ways we can help them navigate it is find that balance between screen time and not screen time, without judgment on the screen time that they do use. And it's so hard for us as adults to refrain from that. But if we really want to create, healthy connections with social media with teenagers, we have to do that with, as little judgment as we can, and help steer them towards using social media in a way that does facilitate some of the things we want. Like, Margie said, TikTok is amazing for self-expression. It can also be a wonderful connector. If you've been on TikTok, you can see there are some videos that are done in with parents and teenagers. Margie even did a dance video with her daughter that's absolutely adorable. I don't know if I can share it, but it's wonderful. And so these are the kind of things where we can use these social media tools. It's just how do we use them makes all the difference for meeting those milestones and really making social media something productive in a teenager's life. So sorry to interrupt you, Margie, but just wanted to highlight, I think TikTok in particular can be a really fun way for families to use this, but it's all about how and what that balance looks like.
Yes. And Caitlin, for the sake of time, we can go to the next one because I really want to get to some resources.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thanks for keeping us on track.
Yeah. So this just shows that 6 in 10 American teens are using TikTok, and it just shows you where TikTok was. And this is back in March of 2020. TikTok now is one of the most popular apps that teens are using. And again, like as we said, it changes. It's forever changing. What social app is most popular over another one. It also changes between schools. I know you know with Westerville, we were out in Westerville last school year, and between schools, some were saying, yeah, we don't really use Instagram, we use Snapchat. This year, I was out in Gahanna, and TikTok, some of the students were saying, we don't use TikTok, we don't like TikTok. And I was really shocked that this is starting to happen, that they're starting to give a little bit of negative feedback about TikTok, why they didn't like it. And some of it, they were saying some of it is starting to be inappropriate, it's toxic. So it was quite interesting to have those conversations because we thought TikTok was huge, and here it is it might be starting to change again. But we do know Instagram and Snapchat are still the top. They're still up there. You can go ahead and flip through. And TikTok also has changed some of their privacy, their privacy settings and their safety features. One of them is teenagers under the age of 16 can no longer receive direct messages. So we know also that is wonderful, but that is based off of the birth date that you use to sign up for the app. And we know that a lot of times, are they really using their correct birthday or their age? So we know this is great, but this is really based off of an honest system. Like, you know, they're just going off of good faith that this child or this teen is really, 17 or 16, and they're really like 12 or 13 using this TikTok app. Receiving direct messages.
Yeah, when we were at Heritage last spring, one of the 8th graders we were partnered with said like, oh yeah, I'm 42 on Snapchat, I'm 36 on TikTok, right? So one of the things that we kind of talk through is what safety risk could that pose? They do that so that they can get on these platforms before they're the age of 13, but what does that really mean for them? And so we definitely highlight that. It starts off kind of funny and as a joke, but then we start to talk through some of the really important safety features of that. So yeah, this is a great tool that parents can connect with their teens on.
And so going off of what you just said about you can go ahead and flip it.
Okay, great.
Turn it. Yeah. So one of the things that you just said was, when you are saying that you're like 35 and 42, when you start to get into these video chat apps, like this one is Houseparty. This one's a very popular one that actually increased because of COVID-19 and everything that happened this summer. It went up because the teens were using this. You can have a large amount of people on. Houseparty is with people that you know. So you're talking, you're video chatting with people that you know. Now, when you go into Monkey, you can flip it. I'm gonna try to get through these real fast.
Yeah, thanks.
When you get into Monkey is another video chat. Now, this is one where you talk to random people. It is linked in with Snapchat. You use your username from Snapchat. It pops up. If you want to talk to this person, it gives you the age and their sex. If you want to talk to them, you click you want to talk to them. You are speaking with them for about 15 seconds, and you can decide. It'll pop up, do you need more time? If you want more time, you can click yes. But between this, a lot of inappropriate stuff can happen because you're talking with strangers. So if you're saying that you're older, you might get someone that's older. So this is one that there's a lot of, it's not even, you can't even get this on Apple anymore, right, Caitlin? This one is
Yeah,
one
so App Store and Google Play, you can't download it, but
yes.
you can. What teens are doing is pulling up old operating systems that had this before, and so they're getting very savvy if they want to use it. So that's where parents again can check settings on phones and make sure it's current and up to date with the newest operating system.
Yeah, so this is one we would just tell you to really speak with your teens about Monkey if you see this one on their phone, about what they're doing with that. And so you can go to the next one. And sorry, this is it. So this one is Discord. Discord is a gaming chatting system where you can chat with other gamers. Fortnite, you might have, if your teen is into games, they might have this, and so you might have heard of it. So this is another one where teens are at, but we also say make sure you're able, you could be talking to strangers, and so just talking with your teen about the safety around that. And if something does happen inappropriate or someone says something to them, that you can report them.
Absolutely. And sometimes you don't think of gaming platforms as, social media, but in so many ways, like something like Discord is.
Mm-hmm. And so this one here is Twitch. This is one where it's live streaming. You might have seen your child looking at other players play a game, and it's like, why do you want to watch another player play a game when you can just play it yourself? And teens are like, well, first, they enjoy it. It's entertainment, and they pick up different new tips or different plays with their games and stuff. And a lot of pushback that we get from teens with this is we have students that say, well, why do you like to see other people cook? Why do you like to see other people play football or decorating shows? And we're like, that is very true. When you think about that, it's almost the same. It is really the same thing. They do it to get ideas. So again, this will be a great one to have conversation with your child about, but it goes into things can happen on Twitch as well, right? So just talk with your child about safety around all these social media apps. Mm-hmm. So you can go ahead and turn.
Oops, sorry, we can go on.
Yep. And so the last one is the secret calculator. This is one that they can actually download this onto their phone. It looks like a regular calculator. You wouldn't know any different. But what it is actually a way that they put in a code and they're able to keep photos, pictures, notes, different things that might be important to them. They hide it, and so you wouldn't be able to see it. And we're not saying that they're being a little sneaky or anything like that, but for them, it's the way that they're just hiding some of their pictures. Now, a way to see if you have two calculators on your phone, you can go into settings and you can pull up all the different apps that are actually on your phone, and you would be able to see if that was downloaded or not.
Yeah. And again, I think this just highlights what we know from the research. And again, Margie's going to cover this in just a second, but we know that teens are digital natives, right? That they know ways around all the parental controls that we put in place. And so I'm going to jump ahead, Margie, and just skip some of the sexual solicitation. Yeah. And just jump in to know that, these digital natives, I'm going to jump here, are really, they know their ways around this. And what the research shows is actually whenever we have those parental controls put in place, teens are more likely to see inappropriate content like pornography. They're more likely to experience harassment from their peers. And they're more likely to actually have an adult reach out to them. And this, makes a lot of sense once you sit down and talk to teenagers about it. What we hear over and over again is if my parents don't trust me and they want to put an app to control me instead of talk to me, why would I ever tell them when I'm in danger? Why would I ever tell them when something happens that makes me uncomfortable? And
Mhm.
so what we want to do is focus less on those control options and more on, like Margie said, how do we sit and talk with our children about this? And so Margie, if you maybe want to kind of talk through this one,
Yeah,
since I jumped into your area.
you are fine. Thank you. So one of the things that you can do, and what we encourage parents to do, is speak with your child from a place of curiosity. Come not so much as we would say like a power over type approach, where you kind of, that you do what I say, I need to talk to you. We want you to come at, like we would say, like this power with approach, where you approach your child and you talk to them, right? You actually sit with them, you have this conversation, but it's from this place of, hey, tell me about Snapchat. What do you like about Snapchat? I'm curious, and it's fine to say, you know what, I'm curious. How come everyone is in a TikTok right now? Can you tell me why? And so start out with, tell me about how this app is important to you. What is appealing about this app? What does this app do that another app doesn't? These are some of the questions that you can start out with, and then start asking other open-ended questions. This is something that I do with my daughters a lot. We just have these open conversations about Snapchat and about Instagram. And my one daughter, she thinks it's funny because she knows way more, because they're like the natives, right? And I'm like this immigrant. And so she knows so much more about social media, And so to her, she's like, let me teach you something, mom, right? So it actually starts to be a way of us connecting, and we're spending time together. And it's so precious, right? When our teens are older, we barely get a chance. They're in and out, they're hanging out with their friends. Well, right now it might be a little different, but it's a great way to start to have these conversations. Curiosity, if you can take away anything else when you leave, just remember speaking with your children, being open, coming from a place of, no judgment. If you really, I'm just curious, why? Why do you like to have a second page? What is it about having two Instagram accounts? So if you start talking to them and asking them, it could lead to a great conversation, and you can really start to know what's happening. And those conversations can really start to lead into other conversations that they can open up, maybe about cyberbullying or things that might have occurred to them while they're online, and you had no idea why your child had an attitude that day or might have been sad, and they finally opened up to you. So this is just a really good way to start conversations. And I know we have one more minute.
Yeah. And just really quickly with that, one of the things I think sometimes we see parents do, and again, I think this is so human, is we approach with curiosity and say, tell me about this. And then you hear something that makes you scared and you're like, why would you do that? And then your child shuts down, right? And
Yeah.
so one of the things along with this approaching with curiosity is, if you hear something that's scary, try to sit with that for a minute and say, okay, I'm going to talk to them about that tomorrow. We're just going to let it sit today. And that can be one of the most amazing ways that your children can test the water and then starts to tell you more. And you can still address it the next day, but it gives it a little bit of breathing room and can really help. And so, Margie, I know all this. If you mind,
Yep.
yeah. So one of the ways you can do that, kind of give some breathing room on things, is setting up one of these family media agreements. If you go to commonsense.org, there's actually a set that you can use with 6th to 8th grade, which is kind of more appropriate for middle schoolers, and then 9th through 12th grade, was more appropriate for high schoolers. And then, Margie, do you want to maybe I know we've got maybe a minute, maybe we can take one more minute if you want to just quickly talk through this.
One more real quick. This is that's not cool.com, Adult Alley Tools. You can go into this. It has a lot of great resources for parents about teen dating abuse, about online safety, things that you can go on to use for resources. Also, you can have your child go on there. If you click to the next one, They have different quizzes and little games. This one is Shelby and Alex. This is one that we actually use in the schools with your students. So you might hear some of them, especially in middle school, that they did this. We'll do this with them. So this is really cool. It walks through a relationship that might be healthy and unhealthy. And then we talk to them about that. You can click the next one. And this is just another website you can go to, intechabuse.org, another resource that has a lot of great information for parents, for just individuals that might want to learn a little bit more about technology, abuse, and online safety. And again,
yeah, especially if teens are have sent a nude, or you're concerned about sexting or nudes, this is a really important website for parents to have some resources.
And then the last one is mindfulness. We know that if we can start to get teens to understand, to kind of get them to come back to the present, if they get a text or they get something that gets them upset and they just don't hurry up and like send something, text real quick, something they didn't mean, to kind of take a moment and stop. That mindfulness. There's a lot of different apps that you can download to help with that, to start to teach them how to kind of stop, be in the moment before they quickly jump and react. So these are great apps. Calm is wonderful. I love using that one myself. It has a lot of great meditation things on there as well. You can go to the next one. And then this is our bystander that we have at the center. Is where's the line? You can call, you can text, you can email, online. This is, if you have questions or you need help or you need a resource, you can reach out and we can direct you. There's a person that will direct you with resources and help you out with any of those questions.
Great.
So thank you. I know we kind of went through that a little bit faster towards the end, but I just hope that you are able to take something away from this. And we really appreciate you taking time out of your day to spend with us this evening. And thank you again for just listening with us.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. So again, our contact information is here if anyone has additional questions. I know we've got 2 more minutes to answer anything in the Q&A if anyone has any questions they'd like to ask as we wrap up.
And we will get some resources out to you all. I can get those mindfulness apps and the emojis out to you as well, and some other resources.